This woman just killed a man with her bare hands for trying to steal your horse.
Ever since Game of Thrones, a number of networks and streaming platforms have wanted to create their very own big-budget fantasy series. Enter The Witcher. The show has been, in scope, the same size as a Hollywood blockbuster. It's implemented a number of amazing visual effects techniques and has pushed the boundaries of what can be done on the small screen. In this video, we're going to take a look behind the camera at just how those amazing magicians over at Netflix and beyond brought the show to life. Is everybody ready for some Geralt of Trivia? No? Alright.
This is the part where we escape.
This is the part where they kill us.
As we mentioned, The Witcher has a vast amount of visual effects, most of which is applied during the post-production in a quick 6-month period. The exact VFX count for the first season of the show stands at 2,000 and amongst over 7 hours of content. 320 of them were provided by Framestore, who focused mainly on the realm of environment building and magical effects, with 99 of their members working on the show from their office in London. When discussing the amount of work that went into the show, executive producer Christopher Gray said that the production is equivalent to a big-budget movie in the MCU, and the amount of shots across the whole of Season 1 is comparable to the first 2 Lord of the Rings films. All of this has to be done in the space of a year, with, as we said, the main bulk coming in a 6-month turnaround. Framestore worked closely with fellow visual effects companies Cinesight and Plantige Image, who even worked on some of the cinematics for The Witcher games, with the trio often sharing assets to help get the job done. Most of the visual effects, from Framestore's end anyway, was pulled off using the aptly named 3D animation software application Houdini. Now, majority of the shooting took place in a number of different locations across Europe, predominantly in Hungary, Poland, and the Canary Islands. It was actually the live-action photography from these locations that inspired the visual effects and the look and feel of the show, such as the battles, the environment, the creatures, the monsters, weapons, magical effects, and lots of blood and gore. Now, one of the main scenes that Cinesight, Framestore, and Plantige Image worked closely on was the opening scene where Geralt takes on a Kikimora. Now, this creature is based off of Eastern European folklore, and in the series it appears as an enormous spider-like creature with a humanoid body and head. To get the look and feel of a Kikimora, research was done with the crew looking at how arachnids and other 8-legged creatures moved and acted so they could make the monster look and feel as realistic as possible. The main goal for the Kikimora was to create a creature that was both dangerous yet precise, a fierce and deadly predator, just like a tarantula. What they wanted to avoid was having the Kikimora's movements being frenzied and chaotic. So, the visual effects team carefully and meticulously matched the movements of the Kikimora to the planned movements designed by the fight choreography. This then makes the physical interactions with Geralt during their fight look more realistic and precise. In fact, the scene plays out almost like a hand-to-hand combat, so the team had to create a sense of resistance every time the Kikimora moved its legs. Now, because the Kikimora is all CGI though, and seeing as the scene takes place in a bog, the water, leaf litter, and surface debris in the scene is also VFX and created through Houdini. So, the interaction between the Kikimora and the water is easier to pull off. Now, another scene that proved tricky to film was the early battle scene that takes place between the defending Sintrans and the invading Nilfgaardians. The scene was shot on location on a hillside outside the Hungarian capital of Budapest, and although the scene involves a Nilfgaardian army of 10,000, only 15 to 20 extras were used as reference and were captured with 360-degree photogrammetry and motion capture cycles. To make it look like there were multiple people, they were captured as both infantry and as cavalry, and in a number of different armor and outfits. All of this helped give the technical magicians a sense of scale, lighting, movement, and texture, and they were eventually replaced by CGI in post. Another challenging creation proved to be the gold dragon, but that's because the multiple components that make up the dragon, such as the alligator-like features and wings, were tricky, and they were concerned that the gold color would make the creature look ridiculous. But they were adamant on getting their final vision and make a golden dragon fit for the screen. But easily one of the most impressive scenes in the first season of the show comes in episode 3 with Geralt and the Striga. While visual effects were predominantly used, the production built a prosthetic costume which helped act as a reference for both eyeline and scale to make it easier for actor Henry Cavill to engage with. But while prosthetics were used in the scene, Cinesite came in with the full-on VFX version of the Striga for the more tricky shots and ones that would be too dangerous to pull off practically. So they intercut the VFX version with the prosthetic one seamlessly. Also, quick fun fact, I'm not allowed to say Geralt of Rivia anymore, the Striga was actually played by Night King actor Vladimir Furdik. Although some scenes were deemed too tricky, a number of the actors and shots were pulled off via wires, including the Striga scene. The best example of this, though, is where actors Anya Chalotra and Therica Wilson-Reed were yanked by wires and then left dangling in mid-air during the filming of the tower explosion in the final episode of Season 1. Another explosive scene that takes place towards the climax of the series is the moment the forest gets engulfed in flame. However, this was all done via VFX. The effect was created by building a CGI forest and then dividing it into a number of different sections and then again into even smaller sections. One of the biggest challenges for the VFX department, though, was creating the look, feel, and the environment of the continent and bringing to life the fictitious fantasy setting of The Witcher using the initial concept art as a jumping-off point to create places such as the dark and gritty city of Sintra and the cliff-based fortress of Aretuza. For the three-tiered walled city of Sintra, the layout was completely mapped out right down to the way the tiles are laid out on the buildings. The main inspiration from the city came from 11th century Paris to understand how a castle and town worked together and how it would look in a walled environment. Another location in France that was used as inspiration was Carcassonne, with the team heading there to get a look and feel of the town and essentially making a larger, grander version of it with a touch of fantasy to make it feel like a part of a different yet lived-in world. As Sintra was under siege, smoke and fire simulators were run, as well as what it would look like being destroyed by a massive Nilfgaardian army. For the likes of Aretuza, a live-action location setting was used before the addition of brutalist-like CG building to the shot. Like Sintra, the entire exterior of Aretuza and an elven keep were designed and created completely in CG, with these and digital matte paintings used to replace views from interior location windows. A lot of time went into designing the buildings, such as churches and meeting halls, and they had to represent the distinct districts of the city, such as lower class, middle class, and upper class. For shots on perilous mountain locations, live-action shots of the actors were inserted digitally into the scene for the actors' safety. VFX supervisor Pedro Sabrosa said, "For a fantasy series like The Witcher, environments and locations serve the purpose of needing to set the scene very quickly. If they don't immediately look right, then the illusion of the world that's trying to be built can be immediately broken and audiences won't be engaged." Sabrosa also said, "From the biggest environments to the smallest effects, it was really important that there was a consistency in everything that we worked on. Even the snow has a signature darkness and grittiness to it." Even with the world of The Witcher pretty much fleshed out, work on the show never really ends, and the production team are always looking to increase the scale and change things in the environment. Not only does this set the bar high for Season 2, but it means that they're making changes to the show only weeks before delivering the full episodes to Netflix. As we said though, the special effects promise to be even grander for Season 2, and with Star Wars experts ILM now on board, we are excited to see what they will do next. Well, guess we'll have to wait until December 17th, oh man! In addition to bodybuilding, Henry Cavill had to train extensively in swordplay for the part of Geralt, saying, "I spent all of my free time, and when I wasn't on set with a sword in my hand, I had 3 swords where I lived and 4 at work." Gotta love that dedication.